guys, and welcome to Reality with Tea. Today I have my chai tea, and it's nice and cool outside, so it's warming me up. Because before it was the summertime, and I was drinking hot tea for y'all, and it wasn't working for me. But welcome back. I'm so sorry my review was late. I just started back to work this week after being out for a year between maternity leave and quarantine and everything else and the summer. So I was wiped out. So I'm sorry I'm late, but I made it a point not to look at anybody else's reviews about these shows until I did mine. So let's get started. 90 Day Fiance. This is not the other way. This is 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After. Okay? So let me start real quick with Syngin and Tania. Now, I want Tanya to understand that Syngin's family and friends don't like you. So stop bringing up the issues between you and Syngin in front of them. Number one, you're the only person on your side over there, okay? You're literally in his home country, and you're in his home. You're in a place where the people that you're talking to do not want Syngin to be with you because they miss him. They want him back in South Africa, and they want to see him as happy and thriving the way that he was, which was without responsibility and being a free spirit or whatever it is they call it, right? So just stop bringing up y'all issues in front of them. So remember last time they had the big blow up at the bride. So now the next day, the family takes her out, and I saw this a few days ago, so I am going to have to refer to my notes a little bit more, but because I don't want to forget anything. But they took them out to the winelands, and they were sitting and talking, and then you see, like, immediately, the dad is very blunt. The dad is like, well, last night we got to see the real you. And then Syngin did come to her defense a little bit. He was like, well, it was an emotional, she was being pretty emotional, but damn. That the real you, I mean, she was upset. I didn't find her to be disrespectful. It was definitely not the right time or place for that conversation, but geez, I could tell the dad ain't really into her. And so the mom said she felt hurt by it. I can see maybe if she said she felt a little disrespected because you were yelling and you did this whole show. But, she said she felt hurt by it. I just feel like anything Tanya does, they're really not going to like it so much. I mean, sometimes they seem to be a little, like they don't really try to choose sides. They try to be unbiased, but they always have a little hint of course, they're going to be on their son's side. And also, I don't think this is, for him. So the dad said, you're very opinionated. You have to understand your words are powerful. And she's talking, and then the dad cuts her off, which I've seen him do several times. That's an issue for me. But he talks about Syngin being easygoing and sensitive and saying he had less responsibility. And I guess, he kind of feels like he's losing his freedom being with Tanya. And he talks about arguing. A lot of people say, oh, the father gives great advice. But to me, it's one-sided. He says, if you're arguing more than you're loving, then maybe you shouldn't be together. Paraphrasing type of a thing. Why argue? Why argue? You shouldn't be in a marriage pretty much if you're arguing. Now, arguing does come in handy. If you never argue, that kind of makes me feel like, are you guys just suppressing how you feel? You know what I mean? Are you not dealing with the bigger issues? Or do you not disagree on anything? Because everybody's going to disagree. And if you always avoid argument, you're never going to get to the root of that. You'll never understand what the other person is feeling, right? But, he's just kind of like, if you're arguing all the time, you shouldn't even argue. You should just probably end it. And to me, what kind of advice is that to give to your son? Like, you should want him to somehow be able to work on his marriage and not have to leave it. But, like I said, they want him home. They don't want him in America. You know what I mean? They miss their son. So of course that's how they feel. So, then they go out a little bit later and they go hang out with Syngin's friends. Again, they don't like you. Remember, Tanya, when you lived there, they didn't like you coming in, invading their space, trying to tell these folks how to live for the whole 2 to 4 months you were living there. I forgot what it was. So, and she already doesn't like them. She thinks that they're belligerent fools, right? So whatever. I guess they go out for drinks. But again, as soon as she gets there, the topic comes up again. Like, why is your relationship on display for everybody to, to have a conversation about? And there's another fly in here. I talked about Paul's flies, and we have a hole in our screen, so a fly has been coming in here harassing us. Either way. So, they talk about, you saw these red flags in Syngin, but you were in denial. And, I guess she thought that she could change him. And, she's like, okay, but, she feels like then she started seeing that it was one-sided, and they're kind of like going in on her. You saw these red flags. You can't change him. Blah blah blah. These changes aren't going to happen overnight. He has changed already. And then Tanya starts defending herself, getting defensive because she feels attacked. And then she starts saying, "Well, we're not here to argue," which they weren't. They were there to get drinks and to hang out, right? And so I think it was to the producers or something, the two friends who I love. I still think that they're hilarious, but they were like, let's bet on when they'll break up. You know what I mean? So it was like, nobody's really rooting for this marriage. I think they asked her to her face if she was a control freak. I don't remember. And, the friends told her, try to control less and love more, or something like that, or live more. So, I mean, and if that's the case, she is a control freak, then yeah, I agree with that. But it's been a lot of tense moments with Tanya and Syngin's family and friends. That's how in that there. All right, so Jess and Colt. We ended the last episode where he was like sitting on the couch with her and telling her, that he had been, basically she was confronting him about sending out dick pics to everybody. And so now this episode, he begins saying, okay, Vanessa moved in. And so she just kind of like breaks down and she says, you always make yourself the victim and this whole thing. And so Debbie comes, they're kind of arguing back and forth. Debbie comes down, asks what's going on, because she says, Jess always flies off the handle type of thing. But her son Colt is absolutely ridiculous. And so, at this point, she's looking for any type of a lifeline here. She's talking to Debbie and she's like, think about me. I'm a woman, kind of like sympathize with me. How would you feel if this were you? Think about yourself. Think about me. You know what I mean? This is what your son is doing to me. Again, Debbie is in love with her son, so she's not going to get on your side. Remember, you're on his home turf. This is his family. They're always going to side with him, especially Debbie, because she wants her son to herself. Or with whoever she picks. And she picked Vanessa to be with him, right? And so, Deb told her, well, I invited Vanessa to live here. So to me, it's kind of like, that's when you realize, okay, why would you do that knowing that we were together? You know what I mean? Like, you was never for our relationship, which we already knew. And so, Colt asks his mother to leave and she leaves or whatever. And then, Jess is all upset. So now later on, we see her, I guess she contacted Larissa again, right? And so Larissa walks into the restaurant and they're having a chat. She tells Larissa that, he used me. He gave me all these promises that he didn't keep. He's a player. She talks about what happened in Brazil with Debbie, saying she was mean to her, slammed the door, the whole thing. She talks about Vanessa moving in, and Larissa's kind of like, Vanessa, I remember her. She was an issue back when we were together. And so Larissa was actually listening to her, giving her props. She seems to, I've never really seen Larissa really giving anything to anybody else. I always see her kind of taking care of her, everybody doing for her. So it was nice to see her like really be sensitive and listen to her and really try to, she told her at one point, this is a blessing for you. You know what I mean? You get to move on. You don't need him. She really was a listening ear. So it was good to see Larissa in somewhat of a different light because, any other time I'm really not feeling her. So Paul and Karine, Paul is crazy as hell. So he decides, I guess he met somebody who works at like a water treatment plant, and he decides that this would be a good place to take his son, the infant, and Karine, because she would love to see this thing. Paul is not even, he had to know that this is not anything that anybody would be interested in but him, right? So basically, he says, maybe I can get a job out of this. So now let's think about it. He's using Larissa and the baby to kind of show this guy, whoever he met, like, listen, I have a wife and a son I have to take care of. Hopefully this guy will offer me a job. So they go and, he's wearing his camouflage shirt or whatever they call those type of shirts. And, at this point, like Karine like, she talks about it like, this is ridiculous. Like, he's obsessed with pipes. He should be a plumber. I guess he's like obsessed with this type of, job or whatever, sewage and all that kind of stuff. So he basically tells her, we're going to see poop water, how they filter it out. It's sewage water, and then makes the water clean and blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, trying to talk up America, talk down Tana's Brazil, where she's from. And so she tells him, like, shut up. This is crazy. You know what I mean? Why would she be interested in that? Like, who cares? Like, the things that he's trying to show her to impress her, like, what she wants to see is that you were able to get a job and take care of them and have her living a way better life than she would have had at home, right? But you're not showing her that. The poop water plant isn't showing her that. So, after this guy gives them a tour in the pouring rain, they have the infant out there. I'm sorry, I don't play that. I'd be like, no, we got to go inside. They have the baby under the umbrella. He shows them, this stuff. Karine probably don't know what this guy is saying. He thanks him and he says, any chance you're hiring? It was so awkward. And the guy's like, no. So, okay, that was a waste of a trip, right? So, Karine's talking to him and she tells him, listen, I'm lonely here. You have no job. My family's at home. I miss them. And so, he says, you know what? Do you want to go back to Brazil for a little bit? So she says, yes, like, I'm unhappy here. This is crazy. So, he talks about how he feels like he failed his family. And he believes that if they go back to Brazil, he's afraid that she would never want to come back. And he should be afraid because she probably is not going to want to come back because you've given her nothing to want to come back to. All right, so Kalani and Asuelu. So we see them in the beginning talking about what happened when they were in Portland, I think, right? Are you in Portland? No, Washington? I don't know. There's somewhere in Portland. I don't know. Either way, so he says he thought that the problem that they had would have stayed back to wherever they were, where his family was, whatever issues he had with Kalani. Honey, it doesn't work that way. If you never confront the issues and talk it through, it's never going to go away. It follows you. You can't run from your problems. That's what they say, right? So basically, he doesn't like to talk about his issues, but he does ask Kalani. He says, because it's like a week later, I believe. He said, well, how bad is our relationship right now? And she says, basically, this is the last option. We're going to have to go to a therapist. Marriage counselor. This is the last thing because we can't stay together like this. So pretty much it's pretty bad. This is the last thing that I'm open to doing with you before I do put a closeout on this marriage. And so, he says, is it going to be, he said, basically, I want a Samoan therapist because he said, white people don't understand me. And I would like a male because, I can't express myself in my language properly. So I would like somebody who spoke my language and I understand him. You know what I mean? Already therapy is something that's taboo to you. You've never done it. You don't want to be, probably doesn't want to be sitting there with a female therapist because he feels like he's going to be ganged up on. He doesn't want to be there with, I don't know how it is in Samoa, but in a lot of other countries, like, and even to a lot of people here, white people are seen as the enemy, the person that's gonna like put the smackdown on you, that's there to either lock you up or to, take your kids or you're in trouble. You know what I mean? They want to feel like they are sitting there talking to somebody. They can talk more freely with somebody that they are familiar with or is of their culture so that they can understand them. So, she says, well, we're in Utah, so there are not many Samoan therapists there, but I can definitely try to get you a translator. So he agrees to that. So he talks to the cameras and he says, in Samoa, if you're having issues, you go to the pastor. And that's how a lot of people are. They go to the church. You know what I mean? So he said, this is something different, but I guess he's open to doing it because that's what Kalani wants him to do. So basically, it comes out in therapy with the translator, but I don't think he even used it that much. But either way, he says he feels like Kalani tried to ruin the relationship with his family by making the decision, which was, I think I don't remember. I think the decision was like not to give them money or something like that, or to go and talk to them and tell them we're not giving them any money. I forgot what the decision was, but basically that she tried to ruin his relationship with the family by making decisions without him. I gotta see it again. Tell me in the comments what that decision was. And so she feels like he thinks that he owns her. And she felt like when they were in Samoa, he acted one way, but when he came over and they got married, things changed up for him, right? Like he ended up becoming like a male chauvinist, you know what I mean? Like, I have to listen to everything you say, I don't have to listen to you, being a strong woman and this whole thing. And so the therapist, recognized this is a culture clash for him, you know what I mean? Well, for both of you really, because they both have to have been introduced to each other's cultures and have to learn to accept it. And so the therapist gave them, I think, for homework, like a list of things that they should be, what they expect from each other, or what they should be doing, or something like that. I don't know. My notes are kind of shoddy, but we'll see how this goes. I know next week Lo is actually going to talk to Asuelu, and I think he's actually going to try to like relate to him and try to help them out a little bit. So we'll see how this goes. So Andrei and Libby. So they start out there like, the Libby's family and Andrei are walking around, and he doesn't know that they met with his friend yet. And so they walk up to like this really cool like punching bag thing where they say apparently they're all over the city and you can just like go and like punch it and see how hard you punch. That was pretty cool. They did that. And it was funny because I think the father gave it like a really wimpy punch and they were like laughing at him and stuff. So they're trying to get info from Andrei. And basically, they told him that they met up with his friend Marcel without him. And was it him that said you should have brought Marcel with you, right? Or something like that. And so basically, they backed him into a corner. They say, this is what Marcel said. He's obviously upset because you guys are like investigating, going behind my back to find out all this kind of stuff that really has nothing to do with you, So he explains to them like he was a new person on the force. Your rank is very low, right? So you're not paid a lot. I forgot how much he said they would have been paid a month, but basically you're working 80 hours a week but getting paid the minimal amount, like way less than we would even think about over here, right? And so Jen says, oh, so you're not paid a lot, so you have to be corrupt. And so he's like, good logic, Jen. You know what I mean? Like basically, I guess everybody is they're trying to survive. It's survival, they're not getting paid a lot. They're working their asses off for their family. So basically now you have to do some corrupt things in order to get some more money so that you can survive in this country. And so he's on the force, and basically he had to do some things that were corrupt. And if you go against it, you can be either put in jail. At one point, I think at the end, he said, I would have been killed if I didn't do what they asked me to do. So basically, I left the force, I left the country, and I left on, good terms. So, Libby is acting as if she's shocked, she's acting as if she's confused. And so he says, Libby, don't act like you don't know. You should have, I'm sorry. Don't act like you don't know. Like she didn't, I wrote that like she probably should have said something and like they could have spoke about it later. Like she probably should have said like, yeah, this is what it is. Now y'all leave it alone. She kind of should have put her family in their place and then talk to him about it later, because now everybody again is against Andrei, and his wife is like, well, I didn't know about that. Where is this coming from? Tell me the truth, this whole thing. And it's in front of the family. So now they know that she had no idea that this was going on. So they talk later, and basically they get to the point where she's like, you told me a little bit, but you didn't give me all those details. Just make sure you tell me 100% of the truth, and from now on. I guess it was something he just wanted to put behind him, and he said basically I would have been killed, and that tells us why he wasn't trying to tell us this whole time on camera, because you're basically talking about the corrupt government in this country. So he doesn't have to share that. It's none of your business. If Libby knew, you know what I mean? She should have been told her family, chill out, y'all are doing too much, he's good. And she just wanted to make sure like you don't have people following behind you trying to kill you or anything like that, right? And he said, no, I left on good terms. If you leave on bad terms, you have to clear it up. So he cleared up everything, and he's on good terms. Somebody's looking for him, and that's it. So hopefully this whole thing is over and they can move on and get married again, because she was on some like, I won't marry you again if this and that. It doesn't matter to marry him again. You're already married. This is just for show. Okay, so let's just move past this. Okay, because I'm kind of done with the storyline. All right, and lastly we have Angela and Michael, and they actually are headed to the altar. We don't see the marriage yet. We're going to see that this Sunday, but they're headed to the altar. So, she got the bouquet with the gems, and, Mike basically gave it to her as a gift. I guess it came in, and he said, I have a surprise for you, and then she showed it, and it was exactly how she wanted it, better than she envisioned, and she got very emotional about it. This is when they woke up. I think it was when they woke up in the morning. And so, she basically told him that she doesn't trust him. She's afraid of what he'll do when they're not together. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we got married, and then I don't want you to wild out when I'm not here, because she told the cameras, honestly, I'm doing this. I don't know if he'll ever make it to the United States. So is this going to be a marriage where we're long distance all this time? Is he ever going to make it? You know what I mean? Like, is this all going to be in vain? So she is concerned about how he will be when he is out of her presence. So they go to the wedding. Of course, she's ordering everybody around. She's bossy as hell. There's a hairdresser that comes. She just kind of like, she tells people like, fix my crown. You can go get this, get that. Like, I just find her to be very nasty, but even especially very nasty to the African people in general. While she's over there, to me, it's just kind of like, you could leave, do this, do that, as if they're her help. And you know, they are there. I guess she has hired them to do certain things, but there's a way you can talk to people, and you don't, you know, this whole superiority thing with her, it really turns me off about her. So then she talks about, why this is the only bra I have, so I'm gonna have to go with that. Of all things, when you get your wedding dress, that's the first thing that you do, is figure out the undergarments that you need to go with it. She goes out there with a green bra showing up under her dress, and that lets you know how ridiculous she is, and how uncouth she is, and how just she's turned me off. I'm done with her now. But I will say, I did make a note that Michael's mom looks very good as usual. Like, the mother is always killing it. Skin is popping, the colors are popping, and she's always sitting there with such poise and grace that she is to be admired. So either way, we'll see if Michael and her actually say yes at the altar. We'll see if he ever makes it over to the United States. Please talk to me in the comments. Let me know what you think. Give me your feedback. Like and subscribe, and we will, hopefully I will have another review for you in a few days. All right, talk to you soon, guys. Thank you for joining me in Reality with T.